Hey guys, Dr. Norm. So we're in the middle of doing a few videos about marketing. I wanted to talk to you about what kind of marketing events you should do, or what kind of marketing you should do when you're new in practice. Okay, so when you think of some kind of marketing to do, it could be a newspaper ad, it could be doing a screening, it could be doing a talk. It could be anything like that, doing a craft fair, something where you're out in the community and you're reaching potential new patients. There's two factors to think about when you're doing when you're considering any kind of marketing. It's going to be the time that's involved, and it's going to be the cost that's involved. If you want to think of it from one extreme, if you go knocking on doors and telling people, hey, I'm a new chiropractor in town, that takes a lot of time, but it's free, essentially. On the other extreme, if you were to run like a Super Bowl ad, you're going to be paying a ton of money, but you don't need a whole lot of time to do that. So I'm not saying either one of those is something you should do, but that's just to kind of get you guys to understand the time and the cost variables, okay? So in my opinion, what you should be focusing on when you're a new doc and when you're in a new practice and you're trying to get new patients is something that's going to, it doesn't matter if it takes a whole lot of time, but it's going to be free or cheap. That's what you want, okay? The things that tend to fall into that category are going to be screenings, and they're going to be talks, okay? So a spinal screening, I've made a video before on spinal screening, so you guys can just find that one. But if you're trying to, spinal screening is where you're out in the community, maybe in a shopping center, in a mall, or at a craft fair, or something like that. You've got a table set up and you're just, you're there to talk to potential new patients to see if they'd be a good fit in your practice. If they have a condition that might warrant chiropractic care, you're talking to them and you're scheduling that appointment for them to come in. It can be uncomfortable. It can be, a lot of people don't like doing screenings, but right now they're essentially free. You can contact grocery stores, you can contact vitamin shops, yoga studios. There's a ton of places, a ton of opportunities that you can potentially set screenings up at. They're not all free. Some of them are. So if you call a bunch and once somebody says, yeah, you can set up a table at our craft fair, it's $500 a person, and our craft fair runs for 2 hours. Might be a good fit, might not be a good fit. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But if you can find free locations, or at least really, really cheap locations, those are going to be places to do screenings, okay? And it may involve you giving up your Saturdays and your Sundays, or giving up your days off, or before the practice, or at lunchtime, or after the practice. You may need to spend that time out there getting new patients, okay? So those are screenings. Also talks. If you can do a talk about a particular condition, you can do a talk about chiropractic, you can do a talk about pregnancy in chiropractic, you can do a talk about kids in chiropractic, you can do a talk about a subject that could bring up the possibility that the people in your audience would want to schedule an appointment in your office. Those would be good to do. Again, those are sometimes free, and sometimes, like, let's say you wanted to get a room at the library, they may charge you $100 to rent the room to do the talk there, and then there's the cost of advertising that talk. So screenings and talks are going to be two easy ones to do as a new doc. So that would be where I recommend you start, okay? Because those are going to be, they may be time intensive, but they're not going to be too expensive. So the last thing I wanted to say is, how much is too expensive to do a screening or to do a talk? On average, you want to, and this can change, but the one I've heard the most is about $100 per patient. So if you do an event that costs $200 and you get 2 new patients out of it, then it's worth it. If you do an event that costs $500 and you only get 2 patients out of it, then you probably shouldn't do that one again. Okay? So when you're weighing the cost of, will this be worth it, try to guesstimate how many patients you're going to get out of it. So if it's $1,000, you may not have $1,000 in the budget, but if you can get 10 new patients from that, it's worth it. But that can be a gamble. So start on the cheaper ones, see if you can generate some new patients from those, and then if those are paying off, then you can consider the more expensive ones, as long as you're keeping it under $100 a new patient. Okay, so that's all I want to say on this video. If you have any questions, leave them below. Please click subscribe if you haven't done so already, and share this with your friends. All right, take care.